And the best part is catching Imba, especially since they got a kill. But either way, he's not going to be falling behind in experience because they have this big stack available for him. As Mushi is constantly making that one go. Shadow Fiend, despite their kind of like half dual laning, is actually going to be just fine in experience and will keep up with God rather easily. Let's take a look at our offlane here for the side of Fnatic. We've got Ohio the Darkseer. He's playing up against a Gyrocopter as well as an Earthshaker. Actually go down. Oh, a little bit more damage, 24 HP. Virtus Pro unable to secure the kill there. And Ohio probably going to have to head back to base now. Almost has his complete soul ring, though.
Yeah, once he has that, he can pretty much just alternate to the jungle. There's no reason for him to just stay up here. He's not really contesting the Gyrocopter's farm. As you see, Illidan's already at 21. He's not bothered by this too much. If he wants to just CS that Ion Shell creep, he can just go for the Rocket Barrage. There's no real need for him to stay in this lane. I think going to the jungle might be a better idea. Like, there's actually one stack here. Oh, I think they'll go for the second stack by Johnny. And once that happens, you can divide it. You can give Kritchuk Imba one, you can give your offlaner the other, and you can divide the farm up. And meanwhile, Mushi can just take the mid lane once the Shadow Fiend hits level 5, level 6.
That early laning ward actually being spotted out by Ohio. He pinked it. FNG placing a little bit before nighttime struck, so he was seen, unfortunately. Kechik Imba hitting now his level 5, even doing a little bit of bottle crowing where G, he's just sitting on a magic stick and a branch with his bottle coming in. Looks like he's got his boots now as well, but you can just see he's not going to be able to put enough pressure on the SF anytime soon. And if you can't put pressure on the SF in the laning phase, and you're allowing him to be able to also clear through his stack, what's really your next timing to kill the SF?
I mean, you can't really kill the SF in this position. You're going to have to wait for your Spirit Breaker to get a few levels. And he's doing a really good job right now in the offlane picking up levels. And all he has to do is play patient. Like, the Shadow Fiend is going to get ahead of you by virtue of having the jungle, because the Dragon Knight can't go to his own jungle, but you just can't tilt. You have to relax and say, okay, this is part of the game. I'm meant to be behind in CS. We'll get ahead in other ways.
All right, so as our Spirit Breaker hopefully going to pick up that level 6 soon, may be able to rotate, help that one. Stun gets laid out. DK Phobos not really scared too much. He's just tanky for the dual lane to really shut him out. Meanwhile, we've got our Earthshaker who's been doing a lot of pulling on the side of Virtus Pro. Lil has focused on trying to keep as much CS away from that Darkseer and obviously give the critical levels for him. Other than that, it seems to be a very passive laning phase. Really, what's our first movement from the supports? Is Fnatic the ones who need to be the aggressors, perhaps, you know, continue to try and shut down God? Or do we look towards that rotating Earthshaker, maybe even going down to, you know, the middle lane or bottom lane with the Spirit Breaker if he hits his level 6?
I actually don't even think that mid is really killable with the amount of farm that he has, and if he just decides to play safe. The Earthshaker combination, I guess, is strong. He's got level 2 Fissure, but Mushi's just camping there waiting for them to go on him. And it's not like G has full mana to do his combo, especially not with that second Breathe Fire. So they probably just have to kind of concede and say, okay, until the Spirit Breaker's willing to come in, we probably can't do anything. But this double damage might change things as DK Phobos sprints out of there with 58 HP, and they should be able to do some damage to this bottom tower, but he's still getting a lot of levels, considering the type of lane that he's against. He's almost level 6, compared to Ohio, who's only level 4. She's going to rotate to this top tower, take this tower really quickly, and I like this rotation.
Yeah, they're hoping to be able to catch the Darks here at the same time. Lil coming out, going for the Fissure block, which he does land. It's just a bit too close to the Tier 2. So Virtus Pro very much committing now to take the Tier 1 at the off lane. But this is seriously going to be a great trade-off for Fnatic. They're pushing in their own bottom lane. They're also taking down middle. In fact, you can see Mushi right now is using his illusions to be able to pull the creeps just to give that extra right-click time for catching Imba and the creeps on that Tier 1 middle tower.
Yeah, and I don't even know if this is a really good trade for VP because G, who's already far behind, yeah, you get that tower at top, but you're giving up so much leeway to the Shadow Fiend, who nearly doubles you in CS. If he was able to take that tower by himself solo, that would just be further efforts wasted, and Kachik Imba's doing a really good job. He has already done the stack, so there's not much more that they can go for. Or he's actually got one more stack to go for. He's about to hit his level 7, and I anticipate him just kind of rotating there because it's too unsafe to continue to push this mid lane.
So the tier 1 tower does get denied by G, but it's still a loss of map control for Virtus Pro. Same goes with that tier 1 offlane tower being brought down to around half HP. KYXY here, he's been free farming for quite some time. What really should his item build be for this game? Are we looking towards perhaps a somewhat early Midas, or do you go for the Blade Mail Blink Dagger build this game just to try and get it really aggressive on the gyrocopter at all times?
I don't know if Blade Mail Blink Dagger is the build this game. If I'm looking at VP's lineup, there's not a whole lot of heroes that I want to really use the Blade Mail on. There's no damage that VP can just not throw out. Especially since the gyrocopter is eventually going to go S and Y into BKB. I think the Wraith King has to keep up with him and farm, and I think it's the wrong idea to go for the Blade Mail. The Blink Dagger, though, I really agree with, because if you're Fnatic, what I think will happen is Kuchik Imba will go for the mech, your Wraith King gets a Blink Dagger, and then you can essentially just run at people. And he's actually got a Gloves of Haste, so this might mean that he's going to go for the Hand of Midas instead.
The possibility of a Maelstrom is there. That used to be a frequent build for Wraith Kings as well, but much more popular build would of course be that Hand of Midas, just because levels are so important on a Wraith King, right? The faster you get that level 2 or level 3 ultimate, the more viable you are as a carry.
Yeah, a lot of your natural abilities just come from your passives, so it's not necessary to really get early game items. Like, you don't need an S and Y or anything like that. You can just opt to go greedy. Because like you said, you just need the levels. Once you're level 16, you're pretty much a free Aegis every single time. So that's what you're shooting for as fast as possible. But right now, Virtus Pro, it looks like they are going to smoke up, trying to take a tower down with this. And it doesn't really matter if they kill anybody. This is one of those smokings that is meant to just catch you by surprise. And you do it so quickly that there's no time to respond. And I don't think they want Mushi out of this. I think they want KYXY, but they're not going to be able to catch him. And
oh, this smoke popping. They may actually go on the wrong one. They blow up the illusion immediately. Mushi himself has actually been hit by the Fissure, but they still haven't caught out. DK Phobos trying to get vision for the charge. Now gets it, but perhaps it's a bit too late. Sure enough, they stop the charge, not knowing if Virtus Pro, or rather Fnatic, are going to rotate around. Now looks like God is going to go for KYXY. Gets hit by the Light Strike Array. KYXY just hoping to be able to get back behind his tier 1 tower, especially with that reincarnation ready to go. I'm sure he feels very comfortable if VP want to go for the dive here. KYXY actually they're both going to TP out. They just give up this tier 1 tower in exchange for more pushing time. You could see already Mushi is trying to get that creep wave into the tier 2 tower, and Ketchigimba and Ohio are going to trade off for the tier 1 at top.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about. That smoke, it's one of those hopeful, well, if we get it, great. If we don't, it's not that big of a deal, just because you're going to get a tower out of it every single time. Because there's zero time for Fnatic to respond. If they want to respond, they instantly have to make the gesture, okay, everybody has to TP right around now. But they smartly decide to go for the trade, and I'm a big fan of that. But at the same time, VP is getting some map control out of getting all of these towers. And the more they're going to beat on this tier 2, and Dragon Form's going to go down, but this is still free damage, and it allows them to go for things like the Roshan earlier, and the mid tower, and it just creates pressure in the jungle at the same time.
Yeah, they very clearly could not afford to just give up that tier 2. Dragon Knight just too good of a pusher. That being said, VP grouping up like this, I'm looking at this Dragon Knight who's currently level 7 compared to Ketchigimba, who is level 9 right now. A huge experience difference between these two mids. But that's just, as you said, kind of early on in the laning phase, what is expected for a Dragon Knight at this point, right? They have to get those levels through winning team fights at this point.
Yeah, the problem with the Dragon Knight right now is that he can't just rotate to the jungle and do his own thing. It's incredibly slow because he has to clear one stack at a time.
Right.
The mana usage of Breathe Fire isn't nearly as efficient as Shadow Raid. So what you're probably going to have to do if you're the Dragon Knight is just 5-man with your team. The problem is that a Shadow Fiend insta-clears a creep wave with 2 raises, meaning that he can apply pressure to a tower pretty much by himself, and you're seeing that right now. And it means that the solo experience he's getting is making such a big difference when at top.
Ohio, he's done for. He's going to throw out a last Ion Shell. He knows he's dead. The moment that Fissure stopped his TP, he's done for. So throws out the Ion Shell 1-1 now, 11 minutes in between Fnatic and Virtus Pro. Let's talk a little bit more about item builds as we see Fnatic go for the 3-man smoke. Gyrocopter appears to be going. He's got the phase boots, Ring of Aquila. Doesn't actually offer the drums, it seems. Instead, maybe going for an early Sage and eventually into the S and Y. I kind of like this early stats build, especially with movement base when you're dealing with a melee core on the enemy team.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where you want to be able to kite for as long as possible, and the S and Y allows you to just have free stats, be able to pretty much kite KYXY nonstop, but it does look like VP wants to get into this fight, and everyone's TPing down, but Lil might just get caught out.
Lil, totally done for the rest of Virtus Pro. Still going to try and force this fight. KYXY is the first target, but of course, he's got that reincarnation. In fact, they even have the Song of Siren if they feel like this fight is not going to go their way. So Fnatic start backing up. Mushi pops the Song of Siren, and they're just going to play it very, very safe here. Mushi TP's out. KYXY, I'm sure, has enough distance to be able to get away. And Fnatic, I think they just have the right idea through and through. Avoid team fights as much as possible. Try and split push, take towers where you can, and draw this game out. You do not want to be going into team fights against a Dragon Knight and a Gyrocopter this early on into the game.
Yeah, something I am a little bit concerned about, though, is that the Shadow Fiend decided to go for this SNY. I believe he's not going for a mech or anything like that, so he's going to be pretty squishy in these fights, and that's something VP can take advantage of. They have a ton of stuns. The Rocket Barrage is still going to rip right through you, whether or not you have that SNY. And this Roche fight is going to be so crucial. They don't have the sleep or the Raid King ulti.
They've got two ultimates down to the side of Fnatic, but the element of surprise is there for Fnatic. They're going to be able to try and jump FG. He gets off the Shell Grade, catching him up. Bounce over that Fissure, back and forth. The big Echo Slam comes out, but it's still not enough. God, as well as Illidan dropping lower and lower. Looks like they're going to be able to get God on the start. Now double Ion Shelling, but they just want to get out of here. Illidan is too strong. Mushi trying to sack himself over into Roshan. No, he's actually got a health potion. Interrupted by the Fissure. Now Mushi very much dead. DK Phobos, no, rather FNG gets the kill. Lil, he's going to be able to go for the stun, but KYXY trying to finish him off, needs a little bit more HP. Nice armlet targeting. Will be able to get out of that one. VP back themselves up, only losing the Dragon Knight in exchange for 3 on the side of Fnatic. It seemed like Fnatic, despite the fact that they had sort of that element of surprise with the smoke and going into that Roshan pit, VP were still too strong, and I think it was all about that read of both Song of Siren and Reincarnation being on cooldown.
The other problem is, once again, the Shadow Fiend decides to go for the Yasha first, so he has no HP. VP pretty much all in him, take him down instantly in that fight, and without those two crucial ultimates, they can't really take that fight, because KYXY doesn't want to be the first one in, because he realizes he can't really afford to waste his life. He's 2-0-0, he's the highest net worth on his team after the Shadow Fiend, and it's not worth it for him just to die like that. At the same token, you don't have the Song of the Siren, so there's no real way to safely contest this without vision in. It looks like they're just going to walk right in, but again, they don't have either of these abilities, and they're going to have to be fast about it because Lil is going to get the stun.
Goes in, he just called out, is coming in. Spearbreaker bounces back, catching him, but perfect timing. He's going to pop the ultimate though, and DK Phobos gets eliminated by those two. KYXY on the front lines trying to toggle as best as possible surge, but not good enough. The SF goes down as well, and now Virtus Pro just looking for cleanup. Johnny's on his way out, the rest of the team trying to cover each other, make sure that they don't lose anything else, but that's still 2 Roshan fights down the drain after what seemed to be a very coherent battle plan from Fnatic. Avoid team fights from VP as much as possible, split push, take towers, draw this game out. They willingly go into 2 different team fights around Roshan and lose both dramatically.
Yeah, and that's twice now that the Shadow Fiend has died. I mean, his still the highest net worth, but it's not by much anymore, and the Gyrocopter is actually rapidly gaining on him. And at the same time, the Dragon Knight is leapfrogged over that Wraith King. And I just don't understand why they decided to take the first fight and then immediately go for the second one when you still know you don't have those 2 crucial ultimates. It's not like the Shadow Fiend had souls either, so they were gimped in 3 different ways, but they still opted to take the fight. I don't know if a Roshan is that valuable.
Certainly not. Virtus Pro very happy with the exchange. You could see Fnatic had built themselves a pretty decent net worth lead before those Roshan fights, above 3K so early on into the game at about a 1,500 experience lead as well, but it all gets flushed down the drain as Fnatic force fight after bad fight. Now the mech is up on the Darkseer, and the team fight aspect of Fnatic grows a bit stronger, but I'm still feeling like they need to avoid those fights, especially if they don't have perhaps that Blink Dagger on KYXY. I still think that's probably the best idea for you to be able to put pressure on the Gyrocopter before he has BKB.
Yeah, the Shadow Fiend's item progression is stopped about 4 minutes ago where he picks up the Yasha, and he still hasn't had enough money to buy that SNY because of those 2 disastrous fights by the Roche.